I think I would sum Mrs. Whittle up as really sweet and passionate about everything that she does.
Consummate professional.
A wealth of knowledge.
Word wizardry.
Lively is the best word to describe her.
The word I would use is bubbles.
Yeah, that's a tough one. You're talking about the lady who's like got every word Smith in the whole dictionary.
Loquacious. I don't know if that's the right word or if it means what I think it means, but Cathy will know. Fanciful language. Walking thesaurus.
She's a master of the English language. She speaks very eloquently.
Extremely dedicated.
Just a sense of comfort and always made sure everyone felt like they belonged.
Can I use 3 words? Triple whammy Grammy.
Inspiring and creative.
An absolute workhorse.
I would say exceptional and fabulous.
Energetic, passionate, just fun-loving, and very dedicated.
Generous of spirit.
Cathy is articulate, and I would say when it comes to her teaching, exuberant.
She's all heart.
Thoughtful, engaging.
Amazing.
Incredibly passionate about English.
She was always present and very dedicated to the students.
Both energetic and very caring.
She would defend her turf at all costs, and God bless her for it.
And blue noser, not brown noser, blue noser, and she'll know exactly what I'm talking about when I say that.
She was full of energy and passion.
Sweet and caring.
Sunshine, that light that comes with Cathy when she walks through, and her energy, of course, is always next to none.
Gentle accountability.
Well, to me, I would sum her up as my fairy godmother.
Just a lovely soul. So actually that's 3 words, but she deserves it.
To the rest of the English world and her students, she's probably wordsmith extraordinaire.
Passionate. So extremely passionate.
Yeah, there are just so many. Engaged, caring, wonderful teacher.
I got the job over the phone. I interviewed in French with Dan Lavalley and Gary Smith and Paul O'Day over the phone from Nova Scotia. And they offered me the job, and I came out and I looked at this little town and I thought, what have I done?
Well, Cathy and I started together in September of 1990. That's almost 30 years ago at GH Primo. There was quite a few of us who started at the school that year, of which I think Kent Lassard is still the only one who's still there that was part of that original group.
I know those first years were, it was interesting. Hey, we started together with, there was 10 new teachers at Primo that year, and it was kind of a wild year. It was a lot of fun, but yeah, Cathy was right across the hall for me, and we were both, learning our trade together.
So I was probably one of the first classes that Miss Whittle-Williams actually was teaching. So I had her way back in the day at Primo, and she taught me French.
It was interesting because Cathy was always a little bit nervous about speaking French, but I mean, her grammar was probably better than mine. So
there is a Primo urban myth that dates back to, I mean, Cathy can confirm this or not. I was gone, but it was my brother that was part of this little rouse of Cathy.
I had a furnace in my room, and they physically put a fish, I mean a big fish, inside my furnace. And they put it there, and I kept thinking, this room smells kind of funky, but it is, way off in the boonies here. So after about a week, they said, Miss, it smells really bad in here. And I said, I know, I think we need to talk to Mr. Meunier and get him in here to do some cleaning. And finally they couldn't stand it anymore, and they opened this furnace, and this dead, gross fish falls out onto the floor. Well, I laughed so hard I thought I was gonna die, and they couldn't believe it. They went running down the hallway to get their fellow students who had been pranking with them. And I think that was a great moment for teaching. Where we got to laugh instead of getting mad, right?
One of the best memories I have, I think, is when Al McMillan and I used to go wassailing over to the Whittle-Williams house on a Thursday night. So, you know, Cathy always had her door open, and John was always willing to sit down and have a beer with us. So it was, you know, those days, like those first few years were amazing. We, Cathy and I started the same year at Primo, and Al was there. Obviously, he started that year too. And those first few years were, it seemed like we were able to manage school at the same time with having lots of social time. So we called it wassailing, and we'd show up there at 9:30, 10 o'clock on a Thursday night, and their door was open and they were welcoming. And that's kind of one of the big thing I remember and kind of miss, to be honest. I think I might have to just do it one day here for show up. As we get older, we do less of that. So yeah, it was good though. It was awesome times.
Well, I mean, within, you know, in the MCHS, I mean, Cathy was one of the ones that, I mean, her bubbly smile and eyes as she goes around the building is, I think Cathy was one of the first two that you loved being in Miss Whittle's English class because you got to sit on a couch. You didn't have to just be behind a bench. And so, I mean, Cathy, I think, took pride in the fact that learning is supposed to be fun and set up a classroom that was unique.
And I think the kids appreciated it because it was a place that they could go where they felt comfortable.
I remember like being at MCHS, watching like my sisters playing basketball, running through the hallways with Katrina Lassard, and like looking into Miss Whittle's room, seeing all the couches, everything like decorate, all the walls decorated, and just like being excited to like be in that classroom one day.
The traditional classroom is just you walk in and you see rows of desks everywhere, but as soon as you'd walk into Miss Whittle's class, there would be like a U shape of desks around, and then right in the middle of the room there would just be, I think it was like 3 or 4 couches that we would all just fight for every single time. It was whoever got there first.
Oh, Cathy's room was one I wish I had when I was in school.
I don't think I've ever experienced another classroom setting that had like such a comfortable environment, due to the couches and also just her energy.
It's like you're coming home, so to speak. It's like you're going to watch a movie. And you settle in, you get comfortable, you got your blanket around you, you're sitting on the comfortable chairs, couches, you can kind of put your feet up.
It was difficult, once again, like I said, she has a very calming voice, and it's like having Grandma read to you, so it was hard not to like almost conk off because she also had her blankets and pillows, and it was just such a comforting and open space to be in.
But the couches really made it that you had a circle of learning, and that everyone was, it wasn't a teacher at the front and everyone else just kind of fell behind her, but she sat in that circle with us and made sure that she was part of the learning environment. It wasn't her lecturing at the front, but that everyone was part of the conversation.
If you're following the rules about you can't cover more than 60% of the walls, she was definitely not following that.
You know, every time I go in there, my skin starts to crawl just a little bit because I'm never quite sure what's buried in those couch cushions.
Cathy wasn't in the building. I think it was a Friday. I think I might have been the only one here. And I went in there and I'm like, you know what? These couches don't seem so bad. And nobody knows the story. Cathy doesn't know the story. Wade doesn't know the story. But I went to sit down on the couch and I fell through the bloody couch, through the bottom of the couch. And I'm like, Wade, we need to get rid of these couches.
I'm going to say that I probably was one of the people who did get those couches out of there. In the arms and the little, you know, in your couch where you drop things, there was lots of things in there. And not the most maybe health conscious things, but it was, some of them were pretty ratty-tatty, but the kids were comfortable. They grab a blanket. They would hang out. It was quite the learning environment, and it was comfortable, and I think that was the most important thing for the kids, but those couches were nasty. I was gonna say.
Politics aside from the issue, I think that the atmosphere she created in her room was almost like a safe space, and I use that term as non-political as possible because I actually really detest that term, but in the sense of what she was providing. You entered into her classroom and it felt like you were almost outside of the school. You didn't feel, you know, at least in my experience, there was no worry for me if I wanted to divulge on like what we were talking about in English, or if I wanted to get up and act silly when we were doing Romeo and Juliet or any of that stuff. It felt like when everybody was in that classroom, you know, because as a high school student, you're going through a lot of stuff and there's a lot of tension around, you know, how you look and how you portray yourself and what thoughts you have and stuff. And there's always a constant worry that you're going to be criticized for sort of how you present yourself. But when you went to Miss Whittle's room, I feel like she provided an atmosphere where every kid, didn't matter what clique you were in, could all kind of commune together.
Cathy is English. She is Shakespeare of the modern world. She loves her craft, and anything that she does, she puts her heart and soul into it, and her kids feel it and they absorb it and they give it back to her. That's why she has had such great success with all her kids. And
she loved literature. She knew it inside and out. She could sit down and give you a lesson if you were stumped in 5 minutes. Like, she just was the go-to person. So as a colleague, that's what I'll remember about her, just her willingness to put everything down and help out.
Being one of her former students in grade 11, and then also being able to work with her in her classroom, it's evident from all the years I've known her. She's just amazing. She makes it fun. She's tough, but she makes you believe that you can succeed in English, even though people are like, essays, oh my, right?
Before grade 11, English was not my favorite subject at all, but just being in there with her very calming energy, and just every day was like being in Dead Poet Society with Robin Williams as your teacher. It was just phenomenal.
I would say for a lot of aspects, classroom management for Cathy would be almost zero, because she has a way of bringing the students in and engaging them to be fully committed to what they're doing. And that's a gift.
I really, really loved also that she would be so into, when we would do the plays, she would have us act everything out and she would get right in there. She would be jumping up and down with excitement. She was just always so full of life.
I think it was in grade 11. We were doing Macbeth, and there's this big fight scene at the end. And one day she had said, "Okay, bring your props next class. You're gonna bring swords, and we're gonna act it out." And so a couple of the guys in our class ended up sword fighting all the way down the hallway, across the balcony, down into center court, and all of us were just watching from the balcony, all of this action happening. And that's probably the coolest thing that I remember in English.
My first year here, I was sitting at my desk, and there was something going on outside. It looked like another student was chasing another student down the hallway, and I'm like, what is going on out there? And I got out there, and there were two students with swords running down the hallway, and Theron Hogg says, "It's on, bitch." And I'm like, what is happening here? I had no idea at that point that this was a commonplace thing happening here at the school, so I was ready to jump in and break up a fight, not knowing exactly what was going on. And here comes Cathy down the stairs, smiling and laughing the whole time, and I'm like, oh, this is commonplace. This is what actually happens around here.
There's a definite, genuine want to see her students succeed. And that's what she strives for, and she's been able to do that time and time again.
She's definitely a pillar of the community here, and every English kid gets through with Cathy. So she's had an amazing run where she's cared a lot about kids, and anybody who really, really needed her, she's always there. She's that kind of person that doesn't let anything go. And so she'll drag a kid through if she has to, and her results, stellar. They're outstanding.
So what I've always admired about Cathy, there's some staff that we have here, some faculty that set the bar really high and they don't compromise their standards, and that defines Cathy to a T. She sets the bar high, she makes sure the students can get there, and just is uncompromising in her quality of teaching, her compassion, and her caring for the students.
She's just last of her kind, the last of the old school. I was talking about it with her just the other day, and nowadays it's just easier to let the kids win, but she doesn't. She holds them accountable and makes them better for it, and we're going to miss that with her constant pressure on them to succeed and not allow them to fail.
There was a time where I wasn't really handing in assignments on time, and I was kind of shirking all my work and stuff like that, and I came into class late, and I didn't have the assignment for the day. And she just kind of looked at me and she was like, "Oh, do you have an agenda?" And I was just like, "No." And she's like, "Well, you should get one." And it just kind of stunned me that she would just kind of call me out like that, and kind of tell me that I should be keeping on track and doing what I should be doing. And I know a lot of people would kind of get upset and be like, "Well, hey, who are you to call me out like that?" But it really did help me. It was that instant that I could from then on, I started to pick up on my work, and like I really did get better from that day on, and I think it did help me that she was like just kind of kicked my butt back into place.
There was never a time where the kids would get the same repeated concept from the year before. She created every single course that she taught was completely new every time. She would come up with documents, and it would depend on the day before and the conversations they had and where it was leading. And then she would come up with completely new concepts for the next day.
Like my fondest memories were probably working on my English 20 and 30 poetry or year-end projects. And she just made us like dig deep down inside, find our inspiration, figure out who our true selves were. And it really like made you think, it made you really just figure out yourself in such a young age. And I still have those poetry projects like nearby, and I find myself reading over them every now and again, and the quotes that I used and like the descriptions and just her kind words after she read them. I just loved my time in her classes. It was awesome.
Her passion and energy for teaching kind of rubbed off on me, just to always live with passion and energy in everything that I do. And she taught me to be confident in my ideas and have pride in my voice, which is something that I never really knew until that class.
I struggled with speaking in front of crowds, and I struggled with talking out loud, reading out loud. So she kind of taught me to just be my own person, that everyone is supportive and that no one's going to judge me. And so she just opened up to me about that. It's okay to be yourself and just express how you're feeling. And
I think she gave them the opportunity to be themselves. I think she gave them the opportunity to feel comfortable, to discover her passion and maybe develop that passion on their own.
She really helped us to kind of dig into our thoughts and emotions and learn about ourselves, I think, as individuals and the world around us.
I remember sitting in her English classes, and she would always stress to us as students to think critically. And I'll completely admit it, when I showed up in English 10, I didn't know what that meant. And by the end of grade 12, that was a big part of my education, and it made a big impact on me for the rest of my life, just about the way I see things, the way I go and do things. It's not just go and accept something. Cathy taught us to look at that and question it, so that we could come up with the correct decision on our parts.
But I felt the way that she addressed educating, I felt like in her classes and leaving her classes, I felt like I understood the world or myself in a better way, and I also felt like I had the it's like she opened up a realm of thinking that I didn't know existed before. It's like the way she looked at the world and the way that she passed it on to her students. It almost opened up a whole different window of ways to look at the world, which I think has impacted probably everybody she's taught moving forward in their life. They now can see the world in a different way and know to think of the world in a different way.
Our students coming out of MCHS have never been more prepared to get to post-secondary with the training that she would give to them in English at a high school level. And that's something that, again, I think a lot of students, even though it's hard work and she pushes them, they're the better for it. And she makes them stronger, she makes them better.
And after finishing high school, I did many, many years of post-education, and I still just never encountered a classroom that was anything like hers. It was always just, like I said, a comfortable feeling when we would read books or read Shakespeare. She always we pushed all the couches together. Everyone just came together. It was like we were one big family just sitting in the living room, learning and reading books together.
I'm a science person. I'm in neuroscience now, and yet when I talk about high school, I still talk about her and her class. And it wasn't just her coaches and how wonderful they are. It was about how she had us read books that challenged us, not just in content, but just like it challenged our perceptions of the world.
I can still name so many of the texts off the top of my head that we read because
because of the way she taught them, not just because of what they are. Things like A Rose for Emily, A Streetcar Named Desire, Hamlet, To Kill a Mockingbird. I'm sure everyone who has been in one of her classrooms would say the same thing. They were really foundational texts for me. Again, not just because of what they are, they're classics, but because of how she taught them. So I'm certain that she inspired countless students to pursue the arts because of how she teaches, including me. And of course, a life in the arts is not just a career, it's a way of being, and it's a way that she is, and she sort of gifts that to her students, and it's really powerful.
Like, she would get tons of emails from people, phone calls, people wanting to reconnect with her that have graduated from this school. So that tells you the impact that she's had on people, students in general, for the last 30 plus years. Right, so it's just been wonderful to sort of see that kind of commitment and engagement.
I'm not sure that I've ever in my life met someone who is as kind, as genuine, as helpful, as loving, and who would give absolutely anything to anybody who needed help, from students to staff to my children over the years. She is the most incredible, amazing woman I've ever met.
A year or two after high school, my best friend, Charlene Cholick, and I decided we wanted to go do a road trip through the Maritimes. We were too young to rent a vehicle, and Mrs. Whittal-Williams very graciously connected us with her mother and her two brothers in Truro, Nova Scotia. We were hooked up with the best bed and breakfast accommodations you could hope for. Her one brother took us out for a night on the town that ended with donaires and beers in a used car parking lot at about 4 a.m. And we were also supplied with a truck, complete with a canopy and a mattress in the back. And we spent 3 weeks traveling the Maritimes. And that was all Mrs. Whittle connecting us to her family taking a flyer on us. And that helped me fall in love with that region. I did everything I could to get back there for subsequent schooling. And for that, I will be forever grateful.
Just even today, I helped her wheel her carts to her house. We were moving her carts, and it wouldn't happen to hardly anyone else. But when we get to her house in Morinville, there's a kid waiting there, 25-year-old that we used to teach, waiting there to talk to her, and was struggling with some things. So I walked ahead a little bit, and they talked, and I talked a little, but it just was interesting to me that this person is, going through a really tough time 7 years after they graduate, and they need to talk to Miss Whittle. They needed some advice, some expert advice on what to do. And that wraps up Cathy, the relationships that she creates for a lifetime. So many of them will remember her for the type of person she was, because she put in her heart and soul, and that's, it pays.
For me, the experience with Cathy there's so many, but trip of a lifetime is going to be first and foremost that comes to mind for me. I've had the opportunity to do 2 trips with Cathy. So the opportunity for Cathy to plan these trips, the detail that she goes into planning, every little aspect of what's being understood. She's allowed students from Morinville to have the opportunity to travel the world and see different things outside of, Morinville, Alberta, Canada. So that legacy alone is spectacular.
I have 51 countries to my credit in my travels, not all of them on school trips, but I would think a good 30 of them on school trips, just seeing the world through students' eyes.
And I can tell you, when they say trip of a lifetime, they truly mean trip of a lifetime. Those 18 days, the sights that we saw with those kids, it was something that I will never forget.
And I will never forget riding the camels with her in the Sahara Desert, or even doing the riding the donkey up the Santorini to get to Santorini, and just the laughter.
And seeing her dance and have fun and frolic in the streets, it was just really wonderful to get to experience other places with someone who clearly knew so much about it.
That whole trip, she is just alive. Cathy It's like with her English. She's so passionate and has such a love for travel, and she just makes it so fun. There was never a time where, you know, she was in a bad mood or things were, even if something wasn't quite going our way, she would find the positive spin on it and just made it so that those kids, it was truly a trip that they'll never forget.
I mean, you can just see how much Cathy enjoys those trips and those interactions with the students. And
you know, it's a different Cathy when she's on holidays. Relaxed Cathy is different than, you know, marking in the staff room Cathy.
Come with me to the Casbah, darling.
You can definitely see there's a passion there to explore the world and be able to kind of share that love of travel with students.
Whittle's having a great day. Here we are in beautiful Genoa once again, and we're ready to do our sound off so we can get on the train and get going so we can make Venezia. Way to go, let's go traveling.
She had a suitcase that probably could have kept 6 or 7 people fully clothed and serviced for a few months. So one of the students offered to carry it through the Paris train station. And of course, he got pulled off to the side, hauled into an area where they searched the suitcase, which of course wasn't his, it was Cathy's, and found illegal contraband in there, perfume that she had bought on the street in Istanbul. And of course, unfortunately, that perfume was fake with copied labels of French perfume. And so Cathy almost got the student arrested and then herself arrested as she tried to rush in and break through the barriers to rescue the student who was behind the wall.
We shared a pod for, besides last year, we shared a pod for the whole time that I was at MCHS, and her technology frustrations were quite funny. She would just yell and curse at her computer like regularly.
Nothing ever seemed to work in 206. And so whether it was the computer being slow or not booting up or smartboard not connecting, laptop, this, that, or the other. There's been a few issues technologically speaking.
You know, cables would work themselves loose. Now maybe it was just kids kind of, playing with her. But I can remember a couple of times having to go up and troubleshoot this, that, and the other thing. And of course her response was, I don't know, it just doesn't work.
In my grade 12 year, there was a big group of us. Boys and girls, but of course I was on the boys team, and we were all soccer players. We played soccer for years and years and years, and we were interested in putting together a soccer team at MCHS.
Ted Harrigan, I think he was the one who said, hey, Miss Whittle, come on, we want a soccer team at MCHS. Can you do it? And I said, me? I would coach. Yes, you would coach.
No question, no doubt in our minds, like Cathy stepped up. It was quite an opinionated bunch of boys, but Cathy was there. She showed up to every single practice with a smile on her face. She laughed and giggled the whole time. She drove us to soccer games. Like it was a blast.
Another Cathy moment, her pod roll.
I wasn't part of the log rolling, but I had to be brought in to see the log rolling of all her pod mates and rolling over the top. Pure comedy. It was awesome to see.
Pod roll, oh man, like I've only ever done it once, and I think it was just we just wanted to release some tension. It was just like, let's do something fun and crazy, so we just did a pod roll.
Wow, that really does relieve stress.
Yeah!
Well, Cathy's yearbooks were a wonder to behold. She produced, I believe, it was either the first 5 or 6 yearbooks here at MCHS.
And those were the days where it was film only, and you had to write all your own stories. You had to tape everything down on grid paper, and it was a colossal job that would take well into July to finish.
She would even make fun of mistakes that she had made. I think back to one image in particular. It's always stuck with me from the very first yearbook when the school first opened. There was a picture of our then principal, Paul O'Day, who had been photographed by, I guess, one of the students. And the way the photograph was taken, the students
apparently put the baseball bat right through. There was a baseball bat hanging, I think, in center court or something like that, and it looked like it was basically right through the middle of his head. And Cathy, rather than trying to bury that picture, Cathy put that front and center in the yearbook and used some very interesting language and description to kind of poke fun at the picture and still be able to use that mistake.
I think Cathy was one of the first two that grad. I mean, she brought grad to just new levels.
I was devoted to the idea of graduation because I thought it was important for the sense of occasion and to celebrate the students, because that's why we always came to school anyhow, to see them succeed.
We did grad together when we moved from, doing it at Saint Jean Baptiste and the arena, believe it or not, the hockey arena. That's where we started.
The first year was quite minuscule, but by the second and third year, I was helping on a much more robust level.
Believe it or not, back in those days, we used to march the whole grade 11 class. Either we walked them over or we bussed them over, but I think we walked lots of times from Primo all the way up to the arena, and then we started transforming that place for basically 4 days.
She's a well-oiled machine. She knew what she wanted, what needed to get done, and it was done.
I mean, we were seating 1,200 people for a grad of 130 grads, 135, 140 grads. So we had an amazing response from the community, and helping make that all happen was Cathy.
She didn't retire from grad either. She stayed involved by working with the valedictorians and working on their speeches. And, she just gets the kids and she works with them and she brings something out of them when they're writing these speeches, and she goes and gets their anecdotes and their stories, and she brings something so that they have a theme and something that they can actually discuss.
Cathy, I think, is known as a vocabularist. I don't know if that's even a word. Verbalist. She has a vocabulary of, I don't know who would have a better vocabulary of Cathy.
Lately, we've been doing numeracy and literacy, and so we've been to a few meetings at division office that are really exhilarating. And it's just funny with Cathy when she speaks so eloquently that. So I love being part of MCHS when Cathy's there, because when she's done talking, everyone has to take a small breather, step back to take in what she said, right? So I always love being part of that.
Just as a phys ed guy, my vocabulary consists of words like push-ups and sets and hurry. But with you, because of you, I have developed a plethora of sophisticated words for my lexicon. How was that, Cathy? Is that good? Did I do good?
Cathy always takes the words out of my mouth. What she said was what I was going to say. So now when I go to these meetings, she'll actually, that's what I would usually say when we'd have the meeting, when they're like, Trevor, do you have anything? I'm like, nah, Cathy took what I was going to say. So I can't use her anymore, but finally I can say what I mean too. So
one of her strengths was that she had no problem telling you exactly what she thought. And I think that, and again, with the passion that she had, it would always come out. So you had to think about it for 14 or 15 seconds before you could respond, and by that time she's probably gone. So it was a great war tactic. I think Sun Tzu would have been proud of her.
Any email Cathy ever sent me is almost like reading a novel, because she actually puts words in there that that is like, well, why did she put that in there? So she'd be like, all of a sudden, gadzooks, and I haven't heard gadzooks probably since Inspector Gadget or something like that.
It's so animated as well, so there'd be like gasp, sigh, those type of things, ... You knew she was telling you her feelings via writing, and then there'd be some crazy words in there, and I'd be like, I have no clue.
We were just talking about a little memory that I had from when I was in high school, where I would write like a pert, and she would write, "Oh, my life" on it, and then she would point to a little spot on the page and say, "This is where my tear fell." And then she would just have little personal anecdotes throughout your essays, and it made it was such a treat to get back.
I had written a pretty tough essay that I gave to her, one of my perts, and she had given me some really big life advice in the comments. And she had offered out to me that she was always there for me to talk after class, or if I wanted to meet with her. And I think that was the moment where I knew she was more than a teacher. She was a friend, and she was a huge supporter to me.
I don't think there was ever a time where I got like an essay or something that we had written back that she hadn't commented like quite thoroughly on. And that's like a very impressive thing when you have, 4 English classes and 30 kids in each class to mark, and you're taking the time and the dedication to, thoroughly comment on the things that the student wrote. I think that's just a testament to her commitment and, again, her passion.
I remember her writing in the margins of one of my essays, not to lose my poetic voice when I went to university. And I did not know what that meant at the time. But I did sort of lose that in my undergrad, which was, a bit more clinical in analyzing texts than we had been in high school. But after that, I pursued an MFA in creative writing, and I found that poetic voice again. And I heard Miss Whittle in my head, and I knew what she meant at that time. And I think once I sort of let myself use that voice, that poetic voice, I found myself, being called a writer. I was suddenly a writer, something I had always dreamed of being. And I was able to sort of take that, and the next steps were into a career from there.
I don't think I realized in high school how awesome she was, to be completely honest with you. It was only literally last year that I clued in and realized what her passion for teaching, her passion for her students, her desire to just help kids get to where they needed to be, actually shone through when I was looking back at my life and realizing as I went back to university how many challenges I had, and I was struggling, believing I couldn't do it. And when I went back and kind of relived my high school years to figure out where all those issues were coming from, she was the shining light as far as, especially for English, as far as you can do this and you've got it. Like, I didn't even have to worry. Like, she knew I could do it. And I just started to realize how important she was.
I just think of her positivity all the time. And I'm a teacher myself. And I think that any doubts that I ever had about being a teacher, she probably solidified me wanting to be, just through her energy and connecting with kids. And that's just something that I'll always thank her for.
Cathy had a really big impact on me when I was in grade 11 and grade 12, and was one of the bigger reasons why I became a teacher, just because she just knew how to hit home with her students and knew how to bring out the best and the most creativity in all of us. So absolutely, she had an impact on me that way.
My very first year here, I started teaching English. For the first 2 weeks, and then I left, and then I ended up coming back full time. But I taught here from September. I was about the first 2 or 3 weeks I taught English, and she was my mentor as I took on English 30-2, English 20-1, and I think a 20-2. But yeah, I had to come in. Paul O'Day hired me to do 2 or 3 weeks while they found a replacement for an English teacher, and so she was my helper for that, for sure, and got my foot in the door here too. So I remember I enjoyed our conversations with that, learning about English, which is not really my forte.
When Todd called and told me I got the job, that was in June, I called Cathy, and she met with me like within the week. She was so excited to have another English person on board, and I'll tell you, that just made me feel so welcome. She gave me tons of information, and she was with me every step of the way. I'll never forget her for that.
One of the wonderful things about having Cathy as a department head, and even just a friend on staff, is that I never felt like I couldn't do something. She was always so encouraging. She always made me feel like not only could I do it, but I was probably already doing it and I didn't even realize that. So the amount of just confidence she gave me as a teacher was really amazing.
Cathy has been here since I started here, and when I was brought to the pod that Cathy was in, and she knew I was teaching English, she just kind of took me under her wing and she gave me everything. And she's a compilation of many memories, because anytime I had a question, she had the time to spend with me to help me when she had so much work to do, and that's been from day one to today.
You've always been a great friend to me, and I consider you just a terrific friend. We've known each other for a long time through many different circumstances, and it's always been nice. I'm going to miss our times that we have our chats up in the stairwell, or we just catch up about what's going on with each other. And you being who you are, you're always more concerned with what's going on with me in my life than in yours, and so that's just the type of caring person that you are.
Miss Whittle was the most influential teacher for me in high school because she was the first person that I ever told that I was gay, and she responded with kindness and love and made me feel like it was all going to be okay and that I could talk to her whenever I needed it. She probably doesn't really remember, but for me that was a huge moment in my life, and I will forever be grateful to her for that. And yeah, I'll never forget that, ever.
Well, right before I graduated, I remember Mrs. Whittle was kind of telling me in confidence how she sometimes felt like it was hard to reach students, and that was like really hard for her because she always put, that a lot of effort in, and she always was worried that she wasn't meeting the kids' need and getting them involved. And I remember, I think it was my last day of high school. It was really emotional for me and also for her. And I remember talking to her and just saying like, Mrs. Whittle, you may not feel like you touch people's lives, but like you do. You teach us to be more confident and to share our ideas. And I think that's something that like everyone needs to remember, is that she tried her best and she always wanted us to be the best.
She's one of the matriarchs of the school. She's been here since the very beginning, and she really has put her heart and soul into the program and her kids, and she leaves a big hole for sure. And when you've taught English this long and you're that good, and she is that good, she leaves a long-lasting legacy here of being somebody that people really appreciated for what she brought to the table. And I don't think people are going to be forgetting Cathy Whittal-Williams anytime soon.
Happy retirement, Cathy. Thank you very much for all the years. You mean the world to us.
You and I started together this journey, 30 some years ago, or 30 years ago. So I wish you and John all the best. We will greatly miss you here at MCHS, and it has been fantastic sharing our careers together.
Congratulations on your retirement, and good luck. You've made such an impact. Even our little experience here recently just shows that what matters, and you really matter to this world and to the people you've taught.
It's something unpredictable. In the end, it's right. I hope you had the time of your life.
You are a one-of-a-kind person. You are a fixture in this building, and I can't imagine coming back here in the fall without you in it. I truly wish you absolutely every best opportunity. I hope that this is going to turn out to be something that you're really going to be happy for. I hope you can look back at all the years that you put into this building and look back on them fondly and the people that you met.
Cathy, I wish you the best of luck. Thank you for all that you've done for all of your students over the years. You've been a phenomenal influence in our lives.
Thank you so much for all of your wisdom. I definitely consider you a mentor being in the English department, and I wish you the best of luck.
So many of my memories from junior high through to high school include you and Claire and Jackie, and just all the laughs that we shared. Sometimes tears, but a lot of laughs. You of all people deserve this. You deserve a good break. You worked so hard to make sure that everyone made it through, that everyone was always okay.
I hope you get to see more shows, because seeing theater with you is like the actual best, so we should really try to make that happen. And I know this isn't the ideal way to retire, but man, woman, you have earned a relaxing retirement. Congratulations on an amazing career, on all the lives that you've touched, And thank you so much for inspiring me to be the best version of myself. Your legacy and your heart will live on at MCHS and in my heart forever. Thank you so much.
Cathy, I thank you for being a great neighbor upstairs on the balcony for so many years. When I come back, I guess I'll just have to get to know someone else, but congratulations. Your retirement is well deserved, and I wish you all the best.
I can remember and have been privileged that since that first year, we've had countless times of laughter, of frustration, of challenge, opportunity, sometimes in hallways, sometimes in my office, sometimes in your classroom, and sometimes over your kitchen table with a cup of tea. I've missed those days, and I think it's going to be a challenge for you, but as somebody who has retired, takes a while to get used to, but it's great.
I know how important your family is to you, and you now get to spend the time with them that you dedicated to so many students previously. Cathy, enjoy you and John, your family. I hope you have nothing but smiles for the rest of your life and never have to correct another paper unless it's one of the grandkids. See you later, Cathy.
I wish you every success and happiness as you go ahead, and you will be truly, truly missed. And you have touched so many lives in your career. It's an exceptional legacy to leave behind. Congratulations.
I would just say keep traveling, keep being herself. She's awesome. She's probably one of the most confident ladies that I've ever met.
I just want to thank you for all the impact that you've made on me in my years of schooling, and I wish you all the best in your years to come. Congratulations.
For those of us that have been fortunate to have worked alongside of you or have been in your classroom over these last 3 decades, a little piece of you has rubbed off on all of us, and for what you've done for education in the town of Morinville, I would like to personally thank you.
I'm going to miss you. You have deeply impacted a lot of people in this school, students and staff alike. Again, I want to wish you the best, and I'm not saying goodbye, I'm just saying see you soon, my friend. Take care.
You've put in so many hours of marking and planning, and I know that you love that planning, and I know that you do, best by the students, but this is your time, and you're free to spend time with John and the kids and the grandkids. So I really, really hope that you embrace that and love it, and toodle pip.
I will forever cherish my time in your classroom, specifically in grade 12. And you definitely made sure that my last year of high school was a memorable one. Congratulations on your retirement, and I hope you have a fantastic future spending time with your family.
We won't go long without seeing you because I'm sure we'll have you in the building, but with all the memories that we shared together, I wish you all the best in your retirement.
So I just want to say thank you, Miss Whittle. I am certain that you will be deeply missed by the MCHS community, and enjoy this next chapter in your life, and happy retirement.
I'm going to miss you. Put me on speed dial, or I might have you on speed dial, because I'm sure I'll be calling you a lot for some ideas and lesson plans. The school won't be the same, but I really wish you well. I hope you enjoy this new part of your life, whatever you choose to do, and please keep in touch.
I wanted to say thank you so much. I never really had an appreciation for English class until she had showed me everything that it could be. And so I just wanted to say congratulations and thank you so much for everything that you taught me.
Congratulations, Cathy, on your 30 years of service. We're going to miss you. Nothing but best of luck to you and John in the future. Lots of traveling, lots of time with your grandkids and your kids. Enjoy, well earned.
Hey, Ms. Whittle, I wish you all the best on your retirement, and I hope that you have a fabulous time.
Just be proud of the work that you put in, because as you can tell, you had an impact on just about everybody you touched or came in contact with.
I know that our kids are certainly, 1,000 times better for it. And I would, as a parent and as a colleague, I would like to thank you for all you've done for us. Thank you.
I just think it's really important that she knows how grateful her students are. 17 years later, I'm so grateful. So I hope she knows that.
You truly changed our lives
I think I could speak on behalf of every student you've ever had, that you've changed our lives. You're amazing. And I wish you well. And I hope to see you at our wedding.
You know how much I'm going to miss you. You've been kind of like my mentor, my confidant, you're my everything. So just getting a little weepy. It's because you've been there for me forever. And so I'm going to really miss you. But I'm happy that you're going to start a different journey, and I hope you do all those things you want to do, because I know that there's going to be something out there for you, and you might not know what it is yet, but I know you'll be grateful and happy once you've kind of created your new path.
I don't think it would be fitting to send you off on retirement if we didn't quote Shakespeare. So we say, so long, parting is such sweet sorrow, that we shall say so long and wish you luck with all your tomorrows.